And good Saturday morning, everyone. Today on Perspectives, we talk with the Superintendent of Mobile County Public Schools, Chresal Threadgill. It is the largest school district in Alabama, encompassing urban and rural communities. There are 88 schools, and of course, nearly more than 50,000 students have also attending in the superintendent's area. He entered this office back in 2018 and has been recognized for his successes by being named as Alabama's Superintendent of the Year. Now, despite the challenges of a large system, the superintendent has used academic focus, technology, innovation, and outreach to the community to propel Mobile County Public Schools to new heights, including a higher grade on the state's report card. He's also a product of the Mobile Public School system, and as he shares, he's held almost every position from teacher and coach, principals to managers of federal programs, transportation, special education, and more. Superintendent Threadgill is now building relationships and partnerships with other governmental agencies and organizations. He says that he's committed to the children and wants them to have a better opportunity for the future. Our guest this morning on Perspectives, Chresal Threadgill, Superintendent, Mobile County Public Schools. Well, after a quick break this morning, we'll talk with the superintendent about the new school year, the system's news of success, and its challenges. Perspectives continues in just a moment. And welcome back to Perspectives. Our very special guest this morning, Superintendent Chresal Threadgill of the Mobile County Public School System. Thanks for being with us this morning.
Thank you, Eric.
It has been a successful 2022 school year. There are a lot of things, and of course it would be perfect if everything worked the way you wanted to work. But let's talk this morning about some of those things first as we get into trying to give you a chance to share about as much as possible about the good things happening in the school system. Several schools recently recognized as top schools in their level of education. Why don't you talk about a few of those?
Yes, sir. Well, there's different rankings. You have your great schools, you have your U.S. News rankings. But the most recent ranking was with the U.S. News, and it ranked Council Traditional School #1 in the state of Alabama. Isho Merch was ranked number 3 as it relates to elementary schools. For our middle schools, it was Clark Shaw that was ranked number 4 in the state, and Phillips number 5. Okay. So also with the great schools rankings, we also included those schools as well as Dauphin Island, O'Shell Road, Hutchins, Denton, Magnet. So we have a lot of great schools, and we are so proud of those teachers, those students, those administrators, because we have some top schools in the state of Alabama.
How satisfying is it when you get those reports? Because your system has been under attack for years, people wanting it to be better, but sometimes they don't know the good things that are happening. And of course, sometimes it doesn't happen with the whole student body, but you've got your groups that are doing well. So how satisfying is it when you get these kind of numbers to come down about that many schools in your system?
Right. Well, it's very satisfying, but it's also disappointing because all of our students are special. All of our schools are special. Our teachers in our other schools do a phenomenal job. And so we want to recognize them as well. But some of our schools I would put up against any other school. Now, do some of our schools have their own challenges? Absolutely. And we're working night and day to try to overcome some of those obstacles. But I'm very proud of the schools. I'm very proud of all of our schools and all of our teachers and principals. It's just sometimes it's a bittersweet moment because you have those great schools that get the recognition, but you have these other schools that's working really, really hard, that have these academic gaps that has to do a little bit more, but they're working just as hard as those other schools.
And you're seeing success in there.
Absolutely.
And among the students. What those challenges that you look at, how do you all come up with your plan of attack to improve those schools? How did you all come up with some of those programs?
Right. So what we have done, instead of going in and looking at the schools that are just listed as failing, we want to broaden that list for the schools that's on the bubble, because we recognize some things that are going on in the failing schools, that's also going on in those schools that's in the bubble. So we have, our plan of attack is to bring a whole committee, a whole group of resources and central office people. It's called our turnaround team. And we come into the schools to help them, give them the resources, give them the meaningful and intentional professional development that they need to be successful. And so far, Eric, it has really been working. It's not going to happen overnight.
Right.
But it's really been showing, we've really been showing improvement. And in spite of what the perception is of Mobile County Public Schools academics, we really are growing.
When you look at that plan of attack, how do the parents work into that? Because both of us being parents of children school age at one time, it takes the parent being involved or parents being involved. How do you get them to come to the table, so to speak, and do their part?
So it's very important for parents to be involved. That's part of the problem. The parents don't have enough information. And it's very imperative that they call the schools, they speak with their teachers, they set up meetings to get that information. So it's very important for the parents to be involved in their child's education, because they have to get it at school and they have to get it at home. And if we can both be on the same page, it makes for a better student.
Yeah, that reinforcement is so important. And that one sort of opens up that door when we talked about the truancy letters that went out and the program with the DA. And a lot of people didn't realize, why is the DA involved in this? But that's his job, is to work with you to make sure that truancy is addressed. And how was that received after people started getting the information to see why this happened and why we're here and why we're concerned that it doesn't get any worse?
Right. So attendance is very, very important. Your kids have to show up to school to get a quality education. So the DA's office, we started this many years ago, that if you have 5 unexcused absences, which includes suspensions, that you will receive a letter to meet with the DA's office to give the rationale of to why the student missed so many days. Well, there was a backlog due to COVID and also due to the DA change. So it was multiple years of letters and meetings that did not happen.
So not all just from the previous school year.
Correct. Okay. So now that the new DA is in place, he wanted to catch up on all of those meetings. So we're talking about 15,000 letters that went out, but that was multiple years. Okay. So I think they had the meeting at the Civic Center because it was the largest space. And I believe there were almost 10,000 meetings that actually took place. So that was a great start.
Yes. Yeah. And so one of the things that he mentioned is that truancy has a sort of a telltale that can lead to youth and juvenile crime, which of course that's his job, to stop crime from taking place. So it's important that parents are aware of their child's attendance.
Correct. Because if they're not in school, they're out doing other things.
That's right.
So it's important that they come to school.
And that ties into safety. That's one of your concerns when you look at the schools and now, of course, the stadiums and the other activities that tie into that. What are some of the things that are in place for the new school year as relates to addressing safety?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, safety is one of our #1 priorities. We want to make sure that we provide a safe environment for our students as well as our staff. We want to make sure that they're safe to work and to learn. I do want to mention that sometimes we get requests from media and for parents wanting to know all of our safety features and details and procedures and protocols. And sometimes we're very hesitant, or we have a reservation about giving out that information, because if it gets into the wrong hands, our safety protocol can be compromised. Right. So when they're requesting that information, if we have reservations about that, that's the reason why. But with that being said, we assess, evaluate, and upgrade all of our safety features. We have cameras. We have access control doors with the intercoms. That's why when you come to the schools, they're locked. You got to be buzzed in. We also have threat assessment training for all of our staff members. And we have a partnership now with the Gulf Coast Technology Center, which is cybersecurity, which is great. because most of our threats now deal with social media. And of course, we have our wonderful 13 resource officers that they do a phenomenal job building relationships with students, because 9 times out of 10, when it's something that's negative going on in the schools, those students come tell resource officers.
Right.
Now, what we're doing currently that's new, we have a system now called Crisis Alert. And basically all it is a badge that all of our teachers have that you could push a button and it immediately alerts the principal, who can alert law enforcement, first responders, for something simple as a child getting sick in class to an intruder. So that's that additional layer of security.
And we saw how that worked at Baldwin County. One of their schools just recently had an issue with a fight in the hall, and so they used that system.
But we had it first.
Okay. Okay. As long as it works.
Right. That's right. And so also, I'm sure you've been seeing that we're almost finalizing the contract to have sheriff deputies. We have 12 sheriff deputies that's going to be in each feeder pattern, armed sheriff deputies, to be also an additional layer of safety for our schools.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of concern about that as the superintendent and educators with what we are seeing happen around the country. And sadly, our schools under attack. We're going to take a break.
Okay.
When we come back, we're going to talk more with Superintendent Chresal Threadgill of the Mobile County Public Schools here on Perspectives this morning. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We continue our conversation with Superintendent Chresal Threadgill. Superintendent, talk about the games and the concerns of the past, about what was happening at Ladd Stadium. We had the incident there, and now the system, you've made moves to where you've got your on-campus stadiums for almost all the schools, but Ladd will still play a role. What do you say to somebody who is concerned, a parent, grandparent, about attending a game, and how do you make them feel comfortable and safe?
Yeah, sure. So we've been working for the last year and a half trying to come up with a safety plan for our individual stadiums. Ladd was one of those stadiums that was so many areas that things could happen, negative things could happen. So it was very difficult to secure. So now that we have our much smaller stadiums, we have a better security plan. So actually being at those stadiums will be very, very, very secure. So I'm very proud that we have those stadiums now, and we have an excellent plan for the stadiums.
Okay. And then for those who have to go to Ladd, things are in place to address that now.
So now that we have control of the logistical side of it, we will kind of shut down areas that we weren't able to do before and try to secure a certain area to prevent some of those things from happening.
All right. Well, when you look at facilities, what other facilities have you added during your tenure now that you're proud to talk about?
Well, first I would like to share a little bit about the stadiums, because I think there's a misconception about the stadiums that it's all about football. It's really not. It's if you look at, we have 12 high schools, 7 of them they already had stadiums, 5 of them didn't. And most people think that the central office and myself fund schools money to do certain things for their schools. That's normally not how it happens. The only funds that we send down to the schools are from state funding and federal funding. And most of that goes towards personnel. So it's up to the schools to generate their own revenue to provide things for the schools. So if you look at the 7 schools that actually had those stadiums, their general funds, their revenue, they can do things for those schools that the other schools could not do. Right. So now that the schools have their own stadium, and if they operate it correctly, they can now generate revenue for their schools to do things that they hadn't been able to do before. So it's an equity issue, and it's a business issue to start generating revenue for those schools to be self-sufficient. So the decision to do that is a long-term benefit. you're going to see now that those schools, those inner city schools, those schools that did not have those stadiums, they're going to start having things for their schools that they've never had before. And that is a great thing.
That's a good point that you're sharing there, because most of us would not think about that, but that's an engine for that school and that community as well.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Can't leave out, you just had to address a situation at Viger with the principal there. How much of that can you share with us as far as how you've had to address that situation based on some of the things that we were being told, where it was an issue dealing with funding that not being used properly?
Right. So it's my job to hold all of the employees accountable. So in that situation, it's just one of those normal situations that I'm holding you accountable. And as you can see, the Viger principal retired. And so that's about all I can really discuss about that. But it's a tough job. You know, you have really good principals, really good teachers, but you still have to hold them accountable.
Looking at this new school year, what things are in place and that you're looking for as you prepare for this new year? We know we had the huge training that you had downtown with the staff and the teachers.
Yeah. So, you know, most people don't understand that the last day of school, we have 8 weeks to prepare for the next year. So there's a lot of things that we're doing to get ready for the new school year. But those two things, we actually had a principal professional development. And normally how we do our principal professional development, it's on campus. So mentally you're having this meaningful, intentional professional development, but in the back of your mind, you're thinking, I got to, you know, it's some work I have to do.
Right.
So we decided to do a professional development outside of the campus to give our principals opportunity to be very collaborative, to be relaxed, while they were getting that meaningful and intentional professional development. And it worked really, really well. So with the leading lunch, it's something we've never done before because it takes work. We assembled over 4,000 teachers, and we took over downtown at the Battle House, the Renaissance, and of course the Convention Center. And everybody heard the same thing at the same time from the same people. So it was amazing. It was amazing. So I'm very, very proud of our teachers. We got great feedback with that, and we're looking forward to doing it again.
One of our superintendents of a smaller system talks about how, with the size of his system, it's like him turning around a motorboat in the intercoastal waterway. But for you, having the largest of the state, it's like having to turn a battleship around.
Right.
So as you look for this point of time, 5 years in, you've won a state award for your work and accolades for what's happening. Where do you see us going here in the next couple of years?
Yeah. So, you know, as it relates to me, I'm my worst critic. So my team and we've done some great things, but I feel like there's a lot of things that we need to accomplish. You know, since my tenure here, our finances have been better. Our academics has improved. We have a lot of upgrades with facilities. Recently, we went through accreditation and state monitoring. We perform the best we've ever performed since they've been grading it. So that's a testament to my team. And so our goal now is to make sure that this district is an A district. And we're not going to stop until we get to that A. Overall, holistically, we want everything to improve, but it begins with that academic and being an A school. And that's what our goal is.
All right. Well, we thank you for coming and sharing today and addressing. Never enough time to address everything, but I think you got a lot of opportunity to share on different points, and more folks will understand, especially on some of the areas. I'm so thankful you shared about the stadiums. I had not heard that perspective, and you can think of all the years that those schools lost that opportunity to have that engine to drive financially.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Superintendent Chresal Threadgill, we thank you for being on Perspectives today, and of course, wishing you a successful school year now that the doors are open again this year.
That's right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And we thank you for joining us this morning. To go for more information on Mobile County Public Schools, there's a website there, the information to contact them to find out questions that you may have for your child as well as for your family in the community. Remember, now you can find all the episodes of Perspectives on fox10tv.com, the Fox 10 app, or on our YouTube page as well. We thank you for joining us here on this Saturday morning. Until next time, you have a great week ahead.